But let's flip it over to the Packers. We got plenty of time to talk about the Super Bowl. One of the biggest stories in the NFL right now, and even though some of the media are doing their damnedest to shout it down, it's taking root, and people are talking about it because they recognize yesterday, after the loss by the Packers to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when Aaron Rodgers was speaking to reporters, he opened the door on his own to talk about his future. Here he is.
A lot of guys' futures that are, uncertain, myself included. That's what's sad about it most.
So how do you go on from here? I mean, you kind of hit on some of the realities a minute ago. So how do you go on from here? How do you take the next step?
Yeah, Bill, it's a good question. I don't know. I really don't. There's a lot of unknowns going into this offseason now. And I'm going to have to take some time away for sure and clear my head and just kind of see what's going on with everything. But it's pretty tough right now.
The more I hear that, the more I see it, the more I think about it, the more significant it is. There's a lot of unknowns going into this offseason. I'm not sure what the unknowns really are. Nobody thinks the Packers are going to say, well, you know what? We think Jordan Love is ready. Aaron Rodgers was slipping a little bit last year. It's probably time to float him on a sheet of ice. I mean, they want Rodgers. They need Rodgers. And bringing Jordan Love in actually gave Rodgers a Jimmy Garoppolo style to Tom Brady kick in the butt and helped elevate him. I think what the Packers didn't calculate is that Rodgers is going to have some say in what his future is going to be, Charean. And it seems to me like he's going to be thinking about everything. And I heard something just before the show that makes a lot of sense. And we kicked around this idea earlier today at PFT. I think he wants more money. That's the talk. He's woefully underpaid in comparison to other top quarterbacks. And he makes as much as Jared Goff, which tells you how underpaid Aaron Rodgers is. If he's making either Jared Goff is ridiculously overpaid, and he is, or Aaron Rodgers is underpaid, and he is. But that is the core of this. You get a new contract, and the contract carries the security that you're not living year to year. You've got 2 or 3 years of football left with the Packers based upon the cap charge that would apply if something happened in the next couple of years under a new contract.
I'm going to take both, Mike. Goff is vastly overpaid and Aaron Rodgers is vastly underpaid. So I'm going to take both of those because they're both true. But another thing, Mike, he may be positioning himself, too, to have some say in personnel and what they do in the offseason. They drafted, as you said, moved up to get Jordan Love. They drafted A.J. Dillon, the running back, in the second round. These are obviously things that didn't sit well with Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. He didn't feel like they did everything they needed to do to become the Super Bowl champion that they now aren't going to be this year. And he sat there and watched Tampa Bay get all these players. Every player that became available, Tampa Bay was all over them. And they ended up signing a bunch of those guys, and they signed a bunch of those guys in season. When you talk about the Leonard Fournettes and ABs and those types of guys, they were in on every player. They pushed all their chips to the middle and said, we don't have long with Tom Brady, so we're going to try to at least win one championship with Tom Brady. The Packers didn't do that for Aaron Rodgers, despite the fact that he's running out of time as their quarterback, and they're sitting here with one championship, Mike. So this also could be a play of, hey, I want you to do what I want you to do in the offseason, whether that's signing another receiver to go with Devontae Adams or whatever it is, upgrading that offensive line, by re-signing some of the guys like Corey Linsley, who's going to be a free agent. Whatever it is, maybe Rodgers wants more say in that area too, Mike.
And here's the problem. Although it's a double-edged sword that could help the Packers as much as it hurts them. The salary cap is expected to be in the range of $180 million for 2021 because of the pandemic. That means there isn't going to be a lot of money to throw around. But what it also means is guys are going to be cut from other teams, and if they're going to be getting bargain basement offers and the middle class for veteran free agents is going to be non-existent, it's going to be the Great Depression for a lot of these NFL players, and they don't even realize it yet. There's going to be guys available on the cheap that you can say, hey, where you want to play? You want to play for the Ravens and never have the ball thrown to you, and I know that they pushed back against that concept in a press conference today with GM Eric DeCosta, or do you want to come here and play with Aaron Rodgers. You want to be part of what we're building here. So there is an opportunity if he can get their attention. And Mike Silver of NFL Network suggested that was part of what he's doing. He's sending a message to Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, that it's time to try to upgrade the team. I still feel like he's thinking about more than that, though. When you talk about your own uncertain future, and it wasn't accidental, and it wasn't spur of the moment, and it wasn't emotional. He's smart enough to know there was a good chance they were going to lose. Let's say 50-50. 50-50, we win, we lose. Flip a coin. Who knows? Maybe a little bit greater than 50 that they win. But you have to be prepared for that press conference after a loss, and I think he may have rehearsed in the mirror a few times what he was going to say and how he was going to pull the pin on the grenade that we need to pay attention to, because we don't know what's going to happen next. And he's made it clear he's going to go think about things, and at some point he'll let the Packers know what he's thinking, and they need to be ready for anything from retirement, which I think is highly unlikely, to trade me, to I want more money, to I want more say, to some combination of those four.
And everything that Aaron Rodgers says, Mike, is calculated. He wasn't speaking after a loss of, I know he used the word gutted several times, and I'm sure he was gutted. There's no question about that. But I'm just saying, even then, when he's gutted, a lot of players would be emotional after that and say things maybe that they didn't mean, or say things that a week later they say, well, it was just after a tough loss. No, Aaron Rodgers, everything he says is he says it for a reason, and it's well thought out and it's calculated. So I think I'm with you. He had this on his mind before he walked in that room and knew exactly what he was going to say. And Mike, he thanked the reporters for covering him and covering the team this year. He's never done that before. So there were some things in this press conference that were unprecedented.
Well, and that's what caught our attention, what we do, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before. Yeah. The PFT writers, we send around text messages saying, we're going to take this, we're going to take that. If we see things that we're interested in or we think may be interesting, generally we'll paste the tweet into the text chain. And I started noticing these texts that we were passing around about guys like Jason Wilde of ESPN Wisconsin, who's covered the Packers for years, used to do a radio show every week with Aaron Rodgers. When he says it sounded like goodbye, that got my attention. And multiple beat writers who have covered the team for a long time were saying, this sounds ominous, this sounds serious, this sounds significant. And last night after the Chiefs-Bills game, I watched that full press conference. We have a link to it at PFT. You can go to Packers.com and find it. It's very easy to find. It's there. It's 12 minutes. It's worth watching and listening and reading his facial expressions and how he chooses his words carefully. And I think he's particularly upset about something we're going to talk about coming up as it relates to that opportunity for him to tie the game with 2 minutes and change left. That may be one of the reasons why he was a little emotional last night. But I agree with you, Charean, was not being haphazard, was not being reckless, was not being extemporaneous. He knows what he thinks, and he had a plan for what would happen if they lost that game, because he's smart enough to have spent some time in a quiet moment over the course of the last week thinking this could be it. We could lose, and I'm going to have to face these people, and what am I going to say, and how am I going to say it? So now he gets thrust into this conversation, which, last year it was Tom Brady and Phillip Rivers. Well, this year it's Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson. We don't know what Ben Roethlisberger is going to do. The only one we know is Phillip Rivers. He's already retired. Drew Brees, we assume he's going to retire. Dak Prescott, who knows what he's going to do. I mean, it's quarterback musical chairs potentially like never before. And I think it's all fueled by the fact that all these teams out there with great young quarterbacks are set for the next 5 or 10 years. And the teams that don't have great young quarterbacks are thinking, where can I get one? And then the teams that are looking for just kind of a stopgap are seeing these veterans out there, and they get fascinated by what they could have for a couple of years. And these names are going to be percolating, and guys are going to be moving, and we just don't know how Aaron Rodgers is going to fit into it. But it's definitely something we need to be keeping an eye on.
Oh, this is exciting, Mike. I can't wait for this offseason. And you're right. Last year, it was the build-up to Phillip Rivers and Tom Brady. Where are they going to go? Where are their best chances to win? And now this year, you've just got some big names on this. And this one isn't as much about free agency as it is about trades. Who are all these players going to be traded to, which makes it a little bit more difficult, a little bit more complicated than just saying, all right, well, I think you should go here to Indianapolis because they have a Super Bowl ready team. Well, he's not going to, most of these players aren't necessarily going to have their pick of where they go. Deshaun Watson obviously has a no trade clause, so he can somewhat dictate where he wants to go. But the rest of these players, Mike, it's going to be working out trades and where they can get the best deal. And those are going to start fairly quickly. You have to have this done, I would think, by the start of the league year, right, to know if you need a quarterback or not.
Oh, absolutely. Now, with Aaron Rodgers, because one of the things the naysayers are saying is that there's no way they would trade him because the cap charge is more than $31 million if they trade him. Never mind the fact that the cap charge, if they keep him, is more than $37 million, and they'd save $6 million in cap space by trading him. And Jordan Love is on a bargain basement rookie deal. Never mind that. Yeah. But beyond that, they could hold Aaron Rodgers until June 2nd, and the cap charge for trading him this year is only $14 million and change, not 33 or 31 million plus. And in a year where we don't expect there to be much of an offseason program, who cares if you do the deal, wink, nod, and you tentatively agree, and then you put the paperwork in on June the 2nd. So that's another element of flexibility if that's what it comes down to. And let me just say one thing before we move on. To our colleagues in the media out there, if you're watching, first of all, thank you for watching. Second of all, thank you for listening to what I'm about to say. Why do you want to knock down potentially fascinating stories that will drive legitimate interest in what we do collectively? We're trying to engage people in our product. We want people to be interested. We want them to wake up in the morning and say, I want to check out the website of my newspaper or PFT or The Athletic or ESPN.com or wherever. We want to see what people are saying about this. We want to know about this. We're very excited about this. We don't know how it's going to play out. And I'm not talking about generating false interest or clickbait. I'm talking about turning your nose up at an obvious storyline that will help your employer generate significant revenue during what otherwise may be a quiet, lean month, especially with no scouting combine. So, and I'm going to be even more blunt. For some of you folks out there that work on a salary, and when you get laid off, you wonder what the hell happened, maybe if you didn't turn your nose up at potentially interesting stories, your company'd make enough money that you don't get laid off. Okay, I feel better. Did I go too far?
No.
Okay,
it's
good.
A legitimate storyline. It's not like we made this up, Mike. He's the one that brought it up in the press conference. If he hadn't said anything in the press conference, we wouldn't be talking about this today. I
made a point in writing that was fairly crass, and it was so crass I'm not going to repeat it. If you want to know what I'm talking about, go to the PFT webpage, press the search button, and search Punch Bowl, and you'll find the story that I'm referring to and the point that I made earlier today as it relates to what Aaron Rodgers did or didn't do. We won't know until some time goes by.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.